Hello! Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. What time is it for you guys right now? Let me move on over. Hi! Wait, why do I have my stuff toggled right now? Wait, why is my stuff toggled? Thank you for the sub! Oh, wait, who was that? I missed it. Hold on. How do I... Okay, there we go. My face is back to normal. Goodness. Also, thank you, IRX032 for the sub. Thank you. Okay, so how are we all doing today? I'm excited because thank you, the real small boy for the sub. Thank you. I'm excited because today, why the VTube avatar? Why not? Huh? Well, why not? Hello. How are you guys doing? I hope it's not too strange of a time for you, wherever you might be. But I'm excited for today because I am going to be doing a light novel reading stream, which I've never done before. As you might recall, I did do a manga reading stream a few weeks ago. Or no, was it like 2 weeks ago? And BookWalker came back and was like, hey, could you do a light novel reading stream now? And I was like, sure. So big thank you to BookWalker for essentially sponsoring this stream and paying me to read a romance light novel. I do have a code that they gave me, and it's pretty straightforward. It's just Emirichu. And you can get up to 30% off on specific romance titles. The bot should be linking it every 10 minutes or so. But I'm just letting you know now to start off and kick off the stream. So I'm extra excited. Oh, I'm so nervous. I feel like something is gonna go wrong. I mean, it's just reading, so it shouldn't go wrong, but you know me. Anyways. Wait. Why is... Oh no, the code is not that. Okay, sorry, hold on. Let me fix that really quick. 1 second. The code is from when I played Mario Kart. Oh no. Thank you, Asterix, for the sub. Thank you. Okay, hold on. Let me fix that really quick, actually. Sometimes I forget what commands I haven't changed until someone tries using them. You did say you thought something would go wrong. That's true. I think I jinxed myself. Okay, 1 second. Let me go to chat commands and change that really quick. Oh, what's going on? Thank you for the sub, LT Riotson. We will get started soon. I promise. Let me just look for this command really quick so I can fix it. All right, hang on. Where's code? Okay. You know what? I, for some reason, cannot find it. Why can't I find it? You know what? I will fix it. Another time. I will fix it later. But right now it's just... Oh, wait, no, I found it. Custom commands. Okay. Oh, I thought I was ready. Okay. Okay. 1 second. So the exciting thing about today's reading stream is I figured it wouldn't make any, like, I feel like it wouldn't be very immersive if I also read the part for the male love interest, right? Can we all agree that it wouldn't feel the same? So I decided to ask Alejandro Saab, who is a voice actor and is also a VTuber. He is VTuber Cyno. Or not Cyno. Sorry. He plays Cyno in Genshin Impact. But his VTuber name is CyYu. CyYu VTuber. God, I forgot how similar the names were. But I asked him to record the lines for the male love interest. That's why I'm so excited. I feel like it's gonna make it so much more immersive. Thank you, Cry Zephyr. Thank you for the sub. I also prepared some ambient music in the background, let's just head over to the, you know, enough dilly-dallying. Why don't I just head over to the actual light novel. So the name of the light novel is Hello, I'm a Witch and my crush wants me to make a love potion, which is extremely wordy, but again, this is a light novel we're talking about here, okay? It's gonna be wordy. So let me just set up the music really quick for you. Hang on. Let me just set up the, oh, I should probably leave the screen really quick. Okay. Ta-da! All right, let me make myself smaller so that you can actually see. Ah, aren't the characters cute? Look at them. Okay. So we have our characters Rose and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Harish? It's a very unique name. So I put I put the voice credit at the top there. Just in case people ask throughout the stream. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this actually. All right. Are you ready to get started? I prepared a glass of water because I will be doing a lot of reading. More reading than I did yesterday, which was actually a lot more reading than I expected. What's a chirping? So it takes place at this witch's cottage in the woods. So I thought it'd be kind of cute if there were little birdie noises in the background. Also, if the music is too loud, please let me know and I will turn it down. Okay, Titus stream today too? No, he's streaming tomorrow actually. Okay, are you ready to begin? Prologue. The Witch and the Heartbreaking Love Potion. Oh, by the way, if the recorded voice lines are also too loud, please let me know. Okay, let's go. God, I'm so nervous. Okay, you guys want to hear? You want to hear how good of a job he did? Hold on. Oh, you can't hear the music. Oh.
Excuse me. Is this the dwelling of the Witch Lake?
Okay, sorry. Oh, God, it sounds so good. CyYu's a talented voice actor indeed. I know he is. Okay, that was a volume check. Volume check. Was that volume good? Was that good? Bro. Oh, it's so good. I was so pumped for this stream. Why does that sound like D-Luke? Wrong Genshin character, but I could hear it actually. I see it. Okay, hang on. Let me raise the volume of this fantasy cottage in the woods video really quick. Okay. Emmy's doing shoujo fans justice today. All right. Okay. Here we go. Sorry. That was a volume check. All right, now we will begin the reading. Wait, does he actually voice a Genshin character? Yeah, he does. Sino? I think his name is. Okay. Ready?
Excuse me. Is this the dwelling of the Witch Lake?
Startled by the unexpected visitor, the witch Rose froze with her hands on the open door. She brushed pale pink locks of hair off her cheek and tucked them behind her ear. Standing in the doorway to Rose's not so very big, or rather quite small, home-turned workplace was a man hidden deep under a cloak so as to avoid being seen. Oh wait, what voice should I give Rose? I didn't think about this. I feel like she's shy, so I feel like she'd be soft-spoken. Yes, indeed. This is a dwelling place of the good Witch of the Lake.
I know this is sudden, but I'd like to make a request.
The man tersely said, informing her of his business in a pretentious tone accustomed to commanding others. The face she barely glimpsed under the hood was noticeably handsome, even in the dim lamplight. Next page. Rose knew who he was even if he didn't offer his name. Harish Azam pulled the hood even lower over his beautiful face. It was only natural for visitors to conceal their identity upon coming to see the witch. Coming to the witch's dwelling was a stain on one's reputation, for no one wanted to be hexed by a fickle witch. Swallowing hard, Rose watched Harij closely, wondering what absurd request brought the man who had no business here to enter her doorstep. Harij spoke with a solemn air.
I want you to make a love potion.
Too shocked for words, Rose reflexively brought the lettuce she was holding to her lips. She chewed on it like a rabbit might. The crispiness of the tender leaf satisfactorily crunched between her teeth. Unfortunately, love potions are currently out of stock.
Then I assume you can make more?
Yes, I suppose. I might have botched that answer. Hidden just as well as Harij by her hooded robe, Rose realized too late that her evasive reply had failed to do its job, for Harij took her response to mean it could be done. Who is the love potion for? Potion seller, I'm going into battle and I need your strongest potions. Okay, wait, hold on. This next line, I actually forgot to include in the Google Doc when I sent it to him. So he didn't voice this one. So I just pretend I have the sexy man voice, okay? Because I forgot to send this line in. My bad. In that case, I'll place an order. I will collect any ingredients you require. It's very expensive.
I'll pay your asking price.
And it will take quite a long time to prepare.
I'll wait. I'm sorry, but I hope you understand that you have no right to turn down my request.
Munch, munch, gulp. Rose swallowed the rest of the lettuce. Harij's overbearing command was punctuated by a surprising lack of guilt. Oh my god, look at him. He's so scary. He's so scary. Also, if you're curious, if you just came in and you want to know who did the voice of the guy, the credit is right at the top of the screen. The loud tong 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 of the cowbell announced a visitor. Welcome. Did you bring what I asked? Darkness had fallen behind Harij, who had set off the rattling cowbell above the door. The forest was creepy enough at night that even Rose, who had been born and raised there, feared it. Please come in. Let me take your things for you. Rose took the lantern Harij carried, then urged him to hand over his sword next, earning a fierce scowl from her guest. He likely didn't want to be defenseless in the presence of a mysterious witch. Thank you, Minty Pix, for the sub. We fell in love even before we drank the love potion. Where am I? Oh. Nevertheless, Rose remained calm in the face of his pointed glare. As a witch, she always made a point of not letting her emotions show. Harij grudgingly removed his overcoat, unbuckled the leather sword belt around his waist, and removed the scabbard. Rose stole a glance at Harij's face while accepting his things. She already knew of his beauty, but seeing his handsome face nearly drew a sigh of awe from her. Under his taut but elegantly slanted brows, almond-shaped eyes glinted. His ultramarine eyes glistened like the surface of the lake on a snowy day. The tips of his shapely ears were tinged pink from the cold night air. Ashen locks covered those ears as if to protect them. His face, beautiful as a statue carved by the best sculptor in the kingdom, made her weak in the knees. Unfortunately, irritation was the only expression to grace his features thus far. Rose hung his heavy sword and overcoat on the coat rack. She then placed his lit lantern on top of the fireplace. Harij slipped inside the witch's abode and closed the door behind him. This was the seldom visited witch's hermitage? Did I say that right? This was the seldom visited witch's hermitage, where those who had no business never dropped by. Deep inside the forest, located on the outskirts of the royal capital, a hovel sat alone on a small island in the middle of the lake. The lake was like a giant puddle surrounded by a large forest. Oh, the name of this novel is Hello, I am a witch and my crush asked me to make him a love potion. It's very wordy. And you can get it off of BookWalker. I will be reading through chapter 2 today. But if you want to continue the story once I'm done reading through all of chapter 2, then you can use my code. You get up to 30% off your coins on this title on BookWalker. Sounds like a typical isekai title. I know, it really does. Where was I? Oh. In spring, colorful flowers bloomed. In summer, the surroundings were covered in greenery. In autumn, the trees turned a fiery red. And in winter, pure white snow carpeted the lake. The hovel was built in secret in a place away from civilization. So beasts visited more frequently than people, and even they rarely ventured across the lake to see her. Only a small boat connected the... How do you pronounce that word? Hermitage? Hermitage? Ah, Garen! Thank you for the sub! Is this stream to mock me because I can't read? That's why I'm reading it out loud to you, silly. Hermitage? Okay. Only a small boat connected the hermitage to the forest. The dingy? What are these words? The dingy had been in use since her grandmother's time and was moored with a rope tied around the stake at the dock jutting out from the forest side. There wasn't anything as fancy as a boatman hanging around to take people out, so anyone who wished to make a request of the witch had to row out to her themselves. Only the tiny shack that teetered on the edge of being blown away in a simple garden maintainable by a single woman existed on the island in the middle of the lake. Rose, the woman known as the Witch of the Lake, lived out there all alone. She was a witch. Her mother was a witch. Thus, she was born a witch. She had lived alone with her grandmother since she lost her mother at an early age. Her grandmother passed away 4 years ago, leaving Rose completely alone. The hovel where they lived together was so cramped it didn't feel big even after it was just her. The interior, illuminated by small lamps, was always dim, and the cauldron used to brew potions occupied most of the floor space. The walls were almost entirely stacked with storage cabinets. Books were messily crammed into the mismatched shelves, with herbs and powder satchels bursting from the gaps. In addition to cleaning tools such as brooms and mops, strange staves that served unknown purposes and scrolls bent at the top were stuffed into the vases placed randomly around the room. Basically, she was super messy. Damn, bitch, you live like this. The floor was in an even worse state. It was so littered with objects, visitors had to watch their step. Nothing was more eerie than the blackened carpet that looked ominously similar to old bloodstains. Gosh, I can't read. Spices, herbs, furs, dried foods, and other essential items for making potions hung from the ceiling, permeating the room with a heavy, astringent smell. Thus, the only space left for guests consisted of a small table and a simple wooden chair right by the entrance. Of course, the table had long since been transformed into another storage space, with no tablecloth or place to put down a cup. Hi, Emmy. Hi, Axolotl King Bray. Hello, welcome. Let me check what you brought. Rose held out both hands. Harij removed the leather bag from his belt, his condescending eyes never letting go of the witch. Oh.
You wanted the liver of a fire rat intoxicated from the ultrasonic waves of a muffler bat, right?
Rose accepted the soiled bag without cringing. Cluttered with books and herbs, the table had no space left to lay out the contents. She forced the ingredients to the side with a hard push to make room for the ingredients. Hard lines formed in Hariji's shadowed brow. Once a suitable amount of space was made, Rose placed a lit lamp there. Orange light illuminated the table. She carefully unfurled the bag. Yes, this is what I require. It appears as though you paid extra care not to harm the liver during the skinning process. I haven't seen the organs left in such impeccable shape in a long time. Hold on, this music getting kind of loud in my ears. 1 second. All right, there we go. Where was I? With a veiled expression, Rose closely examined the organ that might make a young lady of marriageable age faint to hear the process of its removal, then raised her impassive gaze to the client. Oh, let's see. Harij nodded in an effort to remain calm.
Now you can finally...
Yes, I can finally ask you for the next ingredient. Next, I need...
You need more!
Startled by the loud voice, Rose jumped about 3 fingers high into the air. Her loose rope puffed out like a blanket in the wind. Piles of dust kicked up off the floor. Oh boy.
How many times have you set me out already? Last time, you wanted the pollen of a flower that only blooms on the edge of a certain precipitous cliffside. Before that, you asked for the first drop of rain. The time before that, it was the root of a plant that lets out a death cry. Each ingredient takes an immense amount of time to acquire, and yet you refuse to ask me for more than one at a time. Capital punishment would befall a royal pharmacist who did business like you!
Scary. Until now, Harij had patiently collected the ingredients, but his patience had run out. He took an angry step towards her. In response, Rose tugged the hood further over her face. The already petite witch looked even smaller when she shrunk down. Seeing her trembling inside her baggy robes must have struck Harij with guilt, for he quickly knelt before her.
Sorry for raising my voice.
Don't be. It was dazzling.
Huh?
Your face is too handsome. Rose! Rose! So forward! God! Help! Oh, I'm like fanning myself right now. Rose! Rose, it's like not even chapter 1. Chill! Harij's face, now up close, was too brilliant for Rose to gaze upon. She needed to squint. His face was so mesmerizing it looked like it was sparkling. Of course, she knew it was just the lamplight illuminating the floating dust particles that caused the effect.
What are you talking about?
His prior anger was nowhere to be seen as exasperation washed it away. Oh, this expression of his is nice too, Rose thought as she peered out from under her hood. What type of people request love potions? Perhaps they have no confidence in themselves. Maybe their love interest is unobtainable, or someone who already has a partner. Whatever the circumstances, the one indisputable fact is that they have someone they want to make fall in love with them. Rose's one-sided crush had suddenly paid a visit to her home. He came asking her to make him a love potion. Not only did Harij not know about Rose's feelings for him, but he obviously didn't even know she existed. After all, their relationship was nothing more than her falling in love with the man at first sight during a visit to the city. Oh, we're getting some backstory. The only thing that a recluse witch who wasn't even on his radar until now could do was lengthen the time they had together before giving him the potion. She didn't dare dream of him reciprocating her feelings. All she wanted was to take up a small space in his memories. She said, I'm gonna waste this man's time so he has to keep seeing me. The title is called Hello, I am a witch and my crush asked me to make him a love potion. It's a very long title, but you can find it on BookWalker. A little slyness on her side was a fair trade. As a human, she deserved praise for not just dumping a love potion on his head the moment they met. It made her a failure of a witch, though. The next ingredient is the antenna of the rainbow longhorned grasshopper. Make sure you pluck it off on the night of a full moon.
Wasn't there just a full moon last week?
Indeed, there was. Rose nodded as if he'd just told her the sky was blue. Thanks to the full moon only appearing once a month, she just earned herself almost a whole month before he could obtain the next ingredient.
I don't have that much time.
A blue line bulged from Harij's temple. It was a thick vein. Ugh. If she wasn't careful, she might become captivated by its beauty. A vein? That's what'll captivate you? A vein? Huh? Listen, Rose is a little freaky, okay? I don't judge. Rose, stop. Even the sheltered witch knew he didn't have a lot of free time. Harij Azim was a royal knight who worked in the magnificent palace that was visible even from the forest on the capital's outskirts. He was an S-class elite knight. Through Rose's research, or rather stalking, she learned that his father was even a member of the aristocracy. I almost did not know how to say that. She learned that his father was even a member of the aristocracy. Under normal circumstances, he was not the type of person to secretly frequent a hovel like hers, and that was precisely why Rose was so surprised by his first visit. I see. Well, not much we can do about your lack of time, is there? How unfortunate. Disappointment turned down her lips, making her expression match her words. Harij exhaled an extra pathetic sigh as if he'd picked up on her unsaid, "This potion won't be finished unless you prepare the ingredients, Mr. Client," and her stout refusal to arrange for the ingredients herself. His sigh spoke volumes about how much he wanted the love potion no matter the time, money, or effort it took to obtain. "Oh, what a waste!" Rose cried out in a loud voice, rather than becoming depressed about how badly he wanted a love potion. Please be sure to tell me the next time you are going to sigh. A beautiful man's sighs are a prime ingredient in potion making.
I'll never tell you.
God, she is so forward. I know I gave her a soft-spoken voice because I said I think she might be shy, but I think I may have been wrong about that. Will you ever consider going voice acting one day? I don't know if I have the skill for it because I never went to class, but you know what? I'd be down. That seems like it'd be fun. She cute and freaky. Okay. An angry shout rang through the witch's abode. Emotion hidden from her face, Rose watched a displeased Harij storm from her dwelling. And that wasn't even chapter 1, fellas. That was just the prologue. We've set the scene, we've set the stage, we've had the characters. And now, chapter 1. The Good Witch of the Lake. Alright. Since we're switching scenes, I will switch tracks very, very briefly. We are now in a town. Okay, let me get a swig of water really quick. A bird? I need a Harish. Rose remembered the day she met Harij as if it were just yesterday. It happened shortly after her grandmother passed away. Oh, so like around 4 years ago, I guess. Okay. Still a fledgling witch at the time, Rose had failed at concocting a potion, which wasn't all that unusual for her. However, it was the first time she had to go into the big city alone to stock up on ingredients. The royal capital was just beyond the forest where she lived. For all she knew, the forest may have been a part of the capital, but neither she nor the witches before her acknowledged it as such. Good night, CRW33. Have a good night. Sleep well. The city was brimming with smiles, activity, and noise, unlike anything Rose had encountered in the woods. I'm so in love with this man who I met right after my granny died. Well, when you put it like that. The main road, lined with stones carved to be the same shape, was surprisingly easy to walk on. Houses made of brick and tile stood in neat rows along the thoroughfare. Tents were set up in front of the houses, selling grain-filled jute bags, colorful vegetables in baskets, and other useful ingredients. Under one of the tents from which rabbits and foxes hung, a shopkeeper conversed with a customer while they smoked puffing pipes. A horse-drawn carriage raced through the narrow space in front of them at a tremendous speed. Children entertained themselves by chasing after the fast rotating wheels. The city was full of life and excitement. But Rose wasn't in the right mindset to enjoy it. Anxiety filled her more than joy. At the time, Rose had just taken over the house affairs and family business from her grandmother, and she was physically and mentally exhausted. She struggled to earn the trust of clients, and the chores she wasn't used to doing alone kept piling up. With a heavy heart, she forced one foot in front of the other down the unfamiliar Capitol Road. Whenever she ventured into the city before, she was shown around by her grandmother, who taught her everything about being a witch. Rose was confident that she knew more about the forest than anyone else, but the cityscapes created by people all looked the same. Everyone in the city looked too busy to ask for directions. Moreover, they were all dressed in colorful and fashionable clothing. It never bothered Rose when she was with her grandmother, but she felt a tad self-conscious wearing a hand-me-down dress from her mother around all those fancy city people. Feeling pathetic again, her steps grew heavier. What time is it for me? It is 10:38 a.m. Too shy to inquire, she searched for the store her grandmother usually frequented by herself. By chance, she overheard people talking along the way. "Oh yeah, did you hear? The Witch of the Lake is dead!" Rose stopped in her tracks and turned toward the conversation, which was being held in a cafe. The aroma of something delicious like nothing she had ever smelled before lingered in the air. Red-faced customers sat at the outdoor tables, each holding a large mug and shouting their conversation. "What? You sure? That old hag has been around since I was a wee lad!" They're talking shit about her dead grandma. "Don't they say she's been alive for over 200 years? And here I thought she would live for another 100. Obviously, her grandmother hadn't lived for 200 years. They probably mistook her for her great-grandmother or her great-great-grandmother. Rose stepped forward to correct them, but what they said next stayed her feet. Well, either way, it's for the better. Shock drained the color from her face. Rose couldn't believe her ears. Her heart throbbed, and she felt sick to her stomach. Having a witch living nearby tarnishes the city's reputation. Who knows what might happen to you if you accidentally incur the wrath of a fickle and cruel witch? I told my children to never go into the woods unless they want to be devoured by the man-eating witch living there. Now we have nothing to worry about. The customers laughed and sounded downright exuberant about the witch's demise. Rose felt dizzy. Everything in front of her turned black, and she started to forget how to stay standing. Rose had no idea that the witch was feared, that children were warned not to go into the woods, and that they so hated her kind that they would rejoice upon her grandmother's death. To only realize this at her age told her just how sheltered from the world she was. Wondering if her grandmother knew of their malice horrified her. If her grandmother had been aware, then she had always endured it alone and purposely shielded Rose from the truth. Perhaps Rose had been hiding from the grim reality behind her grandmother's dress, never realizing she was being protected. Well,
Anyone who takes immense joy in someone else's death is sick.
a sharp voice reached Rose's ears, where she stood rooted to the ground outside the cafe. She lifted her head with a start, and a single teardrop slid down her cheek. She didn't even know her eyes had filled with tears. The speaker seemed to be a man dining at the table beside the loudly laughing customers. He was a tall man with ashen hair. His menacing expression enhanced the disgust in his words.
Shopkeep, my bill.
At the man's summons, the cafe owner nearly tripped over himself as he ran out from behind the counter. Yes, sir. The two customers who had been enjoying a good laugh were irritated over this uncalled-for interruption. They just wouldn't let it go and had to say more to the man without hiding their ire. Hey, buddy, it's not a someone who died, but a witch, you know?
Your point? Witches are people too.
The drunk customer was the one who challenged him, but he was silenced by how easily the man dismissed him. Shame washed over his face as if he had never deigned to think that the witch might be an actual person.
Has the witch ever done anything bad to you?
The man challenged with a seriousness that was hard to argue with. No.
If it were me, I'd curse the rude bastards who rejoiced over my death. Say your prayers and hope that she is, indeed, a good witch.
The man flayed the customers with a piercing glare, grabbed his cloak off the back of his chair, and stood. When he turned around, he caught Rose's eye outside the cafe. In the sunlight, his eyes were the blue of a shadow cast upon fresh winter snow. Emily, why are you going to Korea? I'm going to go to Korea to visit my parents. It's been a while since I've seen them. Rose held her breath and worked up the courage to thank him, but he promptly broke their locked gaze. He had no idea that the very witch they were discussing was standing right in front of him. Whenever Rose went into the city, she shed the dark robe that marked her as a witch, as was her habit during the time her grandmother was still alive. She wore a black handkerchief around her hair since she was in mourning, but that wasn't enough to make anyone think she was a witch. The man fastened his fluttering cloak over his shoulders and gallantly walked off. The eye-catching indigo cloth rippled against his back in waves with his gait. Hey, Harij! Sir Azam, please wait! The other men who had been seated at the table with Harij hurried to their feet. They all snatched up cloaks the same stunning shade of indigo. Oh. Thank you for being in my recommended hat to follow. Ah, thank you, K-Bob! Welcome to the stream! Fear surged through the customers sitting at the cafe. Crap! He's with the Knights! I sure hope you didn't tick him off. This cafe isn't responsible for its patrons. Isn't Azam the name of Heisland's lord? The cafe was in an uproar, but Rose wasn't listening anymore. Her full attention was anchored on Harij and the indigo cloak flapping at his back as he walked. Harij Azam. Her heart squeezed after uttering the name she had only just learned. On that day, Rose fell in love with someone she could never have. So sad. Alright, next. Oh, another scene change. Okay. 1 second. You already know what's up. I got him. We gotta change the track. We are back. We are back at the cottage. Where did you find that light novel? This novel can be found on BookWalker. And if you use my code Emirichu, EMIRICHU, you can get up to 30% off on not just this title, but other romance titles. They're doing a special for the month of February. All right. Where was I? Then, one day, the man she had a one-sided crush on for 4 years arrived at her front door, seeking a love potion to use on the person he loved. That's a good enough reason for me to sulk, Rose thought as she ground out her feelings by turning the cornerstone. Prepare the requested potion in order to put food on the table. Witches lived by that creed, and as a witch, Rose did the same on her small island. But she couldn't feed herself by only taking requests for specialty items crafted solely by witches. Rose sold ordinary curatives? Curatives? To the merchant who regularly dropped by the hermitage. Special potions brewed by witches were too expensive to keep in stock. Special hair tonic that makes old hair healthy again if you leave it in for several minutes before washing it out. Oils that will make you popular with the ladies if you use it to wash under your arms. Salve that will make you warm if you rub it in your hands. Powders that will relieve itchy soles. These were some of the most popular daily necessities people wanted to buy, even though they were all ordinary curatives no one would assume were made by a witch. The plus was that they were cheap to make. She made them in large batches. Medicines for colds were naturally a part of her repertoire, but since almost every village had its own doctor these days, the demand for it was in decline. People would rather buy their medicine from a doctor than a witch. We should have a counter for how many times she has to say the title. I probably should have put the title text somewhere on the screen. How long are you going to stay in Korea? Just for a few days. Rose was currently in the process of making a powder that repelled insects when burned. Insect repellent was highly useful, not only in one's personal life, but also in fields, so it was in high demand. She needed to create a large batch for the upcoming harvest. Once she finished her work, Rose stood up. Turning the cornerstone for hours caused her arms and backs to ache. Or back, not backs, to ache. She started to stretch when her back bumped into a random magic tool propped against the wall. There were more objects stuffed in the room than open space in the cramped hovel. Ding-a-ling! A loud ringing filled the shack. Whenever someone approached the dingy docked on the opposite shore, the bell in the hermitage was rigged to ring. Rose took 2 long strides over to the window and peered at the forest on her tippy toes. It turned out a deer had set off the bell, not a customer. She sighed with a mix of disappointment and relief. The Dingy bobbed up and down on the lake without a care toward how she felt. At first glance, the small boat looked like it could be taken only one way, from the forest to the hermitage, but it was actually connected to the island by a rope. By pulling the rope reel located on the dock in her garden, she could tow the I don't know if I'm saying this right. She could tow the Dingy to her. Therefore, even if the Dingy was on the forest side, Rose could go out by boat. While the option to leave was there, she generally chose the life of a shut-in. Same. She rarely boarded the Dingy to travel outside the forest. Sorry, I had to take a sip. She walked away from the window with her robe dragging behind her. Dust had turned her black robe gray. She wanted to wash it, but couldn't, because she didn't know when Harij might visit. The robe was pivotal in hiding the emotions she couldn't conceal. Oh, dingy? Dingy? Dingy. Okay, thank you. If it's a small rowboat, then it's pronounced dingy? Oh, dingy! Thank you. I have to buy another one. She had been using her grandmother's and mother's hand-me-downs all this time, but had worn out or burned them while brewing potions, so she was wearing the last intact robe she had. The merchant's next visit was 2 weeks away. That was a long time. She brought her sleeve to her nose and sniffed. It kind of reeked. Smelling bad was worse than not having a robe to hide under. After struggling with the 2 choices, Rose decided on the troublesome option of washing it. She grabbed several bottles from the shelf and dragged a wooden tub outside. The lake was only a few steps away. Surrounding the hovel on all sides, it sparked radiantly under the bright sun. Dipping her hands in the water made them so cold it hurt. The water was freezing to the point it almost felt holy. Her ancestors may have settled in such a remote place because of this beautiful body of water. Oh! Oh, that scared me! Oh my god! Thank you, Migzors, for the gifted subs! Thank you for the 5 gifted! Thank you, I appreciate it. I was getting so into reading, I got startled. Thank you so much. Ah! Thank you, Dan the Hunt. Thank you, Dan the Hunter, for the sub. Wait. Yeah, thank you. Wow, 10 months. Thanks. After all, high-quality raw materials were crucial to the creation of a witch's secret potions. Rose decided she might as well water the field while she was at it. She removed her robe and also her dress, leaving on only a chemise. This reading stream is making me realize very quickly there's a lot of words I don't know how to pronounce. A chemise? She then scrubbed her clothes with a potion to remove stubborn stains that she had poured into the tub. After debating it for a moment, she also poured in a potion to sprinkle on your neck before a date. Like perfume, I guess. She didn't do it for any particular reason. Then she figured she might as well wash her hair with the fluffy white bubbles. She didn't do that for any particular reason either. Sure, Jan. Okay, Rose. Ding-a-ling. The bell rang again. Because it also served as a warning system, it was adjusted so she could hear it wherever she was, no matter what she was doing. No way, she uttered in horror. How could it ring at a time when she not only was wearing just a thin chemise, but also had a head full of soap bubbles? She had almost no relationship with the people who lived anywhere near the forest. People rarely traveled this deep into the woods either. It can't be. What if he came right now? No, he wouldn't. He has only ever visited me at night. Even though she knew his visiting habits, she nervously looked up while feeling her heart sink into the pit of her stomach. There he was, the same deer as before, with what she could swear was a smug look. Oh my gosh! Ah! unable to take out her anger on anything else, she squeezed the side of the tub. I really, really wouldn't have minded if it was him. I really wasn't washing up for any particular reason having to do with him. Yeah, okay, Rose. Like we're gonna buy that. She roughly rinsed out her hair and then dove into the lake with a chemise on. I can't stand this girl for real. The icy coldness of the water permeated her body. After rinsing bubbles and dirt off underwater, she surfaced. The chemise that had been clinging to her body spread out in the water. She went ahead and just floated on the surface. I wore myself out for no reason. She wasn't used to the wild swing in her emotions. Rose had lived a long time alone, and she had gone through life repeating the same rote schedule every day. Is chemise? Oh, chemise. Even the one-sided love she had developed 4 years ago was merely something she enjoyed reflecting on as a good memory. Rose never intended to face her frank and raw emotions like this. Aside from the merchant who came by on his runs, the witch only received one visitor every few months, and even that wasn't always so. That was why her heart jumped and sank every time the bell jangled. Sorry, taking a sip of water. Harij wasn't coming to see Rose. He was coming to see the witch, which is the same person. Therefore, Harij wouldn't care in the least if her hair was covered in bubbles or if she stank. I have to make myself understand that better, she muttered with blue lips as she closed her eyes. Icy water flowed past her cheeks. All right. Oh, okay. Looks like she went to go see a fabric merchant. Let me change the music so it's more shoppy. What voice should I give this clothing tailor person? I feel like he'd be like kind of a diva, yeah? All right, hang on one second. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. Okay. This is the rare fabric made from embroidering a flower that only blooms at the bottom of an oasis with beads crafted by a royal glass craftsman. And this is the pelt of a deep-sea monster that only surfaces during the midnight sun, which is procured from overseas. This colorful fabric here is indeed dyed with the raw holy water from the kingdom of snow. The vivid color won't fade no matter how often it's washed. I see. Rose feigned indifference, though she was overwhelmed. Colorful and resplendent fabrics were laid out in front of her, taking up more space than the narrow room had to offer. There was barely a place to stand because of Rose's laziness with cleaning up, which spoke volumes of the merchant's talent for displaying his wares. Now then, has anything caught your fancy, fair witch of the lake, Rose? Asked the fox-eyed man who made even a humble witch feel like a princess. Tian Kong, a merchant who had been selling to her family since her grandmother's generation, smiled. Rose held up one of the fabrics to hide from his all-knowing smile. Her current predicament was caused by what was meant to be a casual request. By any chance, could you sell me a robe? Anything will do. Rose had broached the subject with an air of indifference while selling potions to Tian, but the merchant had known her since she was a little girl. His intuition picked up on more than what she was saying. The next day, he ferried across a store's worth of goods on the boat, nearly tipping over in the process. By the way, I highly recommend the lavender material. I would love to see you in rose pink the most, but absolutely not. Shuddering, Rose shook her head at the cloth he held up, which was so brightly colored it stung the eyes. I thought you would say that. Tian's smart-aleck shrug irked Rose. She wanted to shove a pill in his mouth that makes a monster with a black luster descend upside down and place in the corner of the house. It was very specific. Pill. Why did you only bring bright colors? You, the girl who didn't have the slightest interest in dressing up because you could still wear your mother's hand-me-downs, asked me for clothing. Can you blame me for going all out? You wouldn't even let me make you a robe after you took on the title of Witch of the Lake, despite how much I tried to persuade you. Don't worry about the cost. Allow me to gift it to you as a belated present. I'll prepare a whole set for you with a bang. Something adorable. And here's Tian. Oh, this is so cute. No! What novel is this? This novel is called, Hello, I'm a witch and my crush asked me to make him a love potion. Oh, The Witch and the Night? Sure, we can reduce it. We can shorten it to that. Hello, I'm a witch and my crush wants me to make a love potion. Yeah, that one. That's the title. Something adorable. Am I stuck as a 10-year-old in Tian's mind? Rose was slightly disturbed by how carried away Tian was getting. Her first meeting with Tian was from behind her grandmother's skirt. Meeting a young man for the first time was so frightening as a little girl. She hid behind her grandmother. Tian's appearance hadn't changed much since then. He was more than 10 years her senior, but he descended from people of a distant foreign land and appeared much younger than he actually was. Asian don't reason. You know the phrase. From an early age, Tian learned the trade by accompanying his father's peddling wares, and a good decade ago, he took charge of the Witch of the Lake account. As with his father, Tian treated them well, and the change wasn't an inconvenience. Hi, MXM! Thank you so much for staying for as long as you did. Thank you, thank you! Where was I? The Kongs had been very accommodating all the way back to her grandmother's era. Without them, Rose may not have ever been able to give her grandmother a proper burial. Rose couldn't reject him too hard because of what his family had done for hers. At her wit's end, she kept her gaze over the flood of colors covering the room. She didn't know much about fashion, but she could tell each fabric was first-class material, carefully selected per Tian's unique tastes. She couldn't risk wearing them to work in the mud, boil nuts, make herbal decoctions, or do any of the many other dirty jobs her work as a witch entailed. None of the colors seemed to suit me, but I know he wouldn't bring anything that would look bad on me. Then she spotted a deep indigo material in the sea of bright colors and unwittingly smiled. What's this? Did that one catch your eye? Hold on a moment, let's see how it looks against you. Don't, Tian, just stop, she commanded, grabbing hold of Tian's sleeve. Perhaps she spoke too strongly. She was practically admitting that she had interest. The indigo fabric was the exact same shade as Hariju's cloak. Wearing a robe tailored from that fabric would surely make her feel like she was wrapped in his mantle. But then she ran the very real risk of being absolutely distracted by her clothing. Tian pulled a large catalog from his bangs, seemingly deciding to cut Rose a little slack because she was acting different from usual. See if there's anything you like in here. These are the colors that will look good on you. Several dozen sample fabrics were glued to the page she opened up to her. Rose poked her face out of the hood and took a closer look at it. This material and this material may look plain, but they have been woven to have a floral pattern that really stands out under sunlight. Oh my god, what happened to my model? Oh, why'd my model freeze? Hang on. Okay. Oh my my model just froze out of nowhere. Sorry about that. We're back. How long will I be streaming today? I'm gonna read until end of chapter 2. So I don't know how long that'll take. I'm predicting, I don't know, maybe like an hour or two more. I hope it's entertaining so far. I know listening to like an audiobook is not the most riveting way to watch a stream, but if it's nighttime, I hope it serves as a good bedtime story. I rarely venture outside when it's sunny, so I prefer something without any gimmicks. Something I would feel comfortable wearing all the time. Then this is a color for you. It's called Viridian Blue, the color of your beloved forest, Tian explained in a soft and calm voice. Rose felt more comfortable with his recommendations when he wasn't overly excited. He pinched the fabric between his fingers. It was the same color of the forest reflected on the lake. Rose's expression didn't change, but seeing the way she was captivated by the single fabric, Tian smiled. Let's go with this one. It's woven using silk and gold thread, which makes it exceptionally more beautiful under lamplight. It's not like I'm trying to be prettier for someone. Either way, it is my obligation as a merchant to explain my wares, regardless of what the customer is going to use it for. It's not like I'm trying to look pretty. She couldn't argue with that. Tian offered a satisfied little smile when Rose pressed her lips in a flat line. Now then, how about some lipstick and blush while we're at it? It will give you a rosy complexion. My complexion will be rosy enough if I slap my cheeks. I can't stand for my adorable witch constantly slapping her cheeks to give them color. Pinks with a bluish tint will look absolutely wonderful on your porcelain white skin. Are you implying I look pale because I don't go out in the sun much? You have had a bad habit of interpreting everything said to you in a negative light since you were a little girl. Alright, which lipstick container do you prefer? On this one, you can see the side profile of Countess Taguil. Taguil? A fashionista famed throughout the royal capital, while this container made with mother of pearl took the craftsman 3 years to create. Tian ended up gifting Rose with all sorts of goodies because she couldn't make up her mind. Rightly assuming he wouldn't stop even if she asked him to, Rose gave up making remarks to the latter half of their time together. Everyone needs a friend like Tian. Oh, hello, Sora. Sora Hana. Hello. Hi, welcome. Rose returned to brewing potions then too, but that didn't stop Tian from coming back several days later with a literal boatload of goods, exasperating the witch beyond words. Oh, time to hydrate. There we go. Harij paid his next visit to the witch's hermitage? Harij paid his next visit to the witch's hermitage well after the sky had grown dark. Oh, wait. Oh, we switched scenes? Hold on, we gotta switch tracks. I almost forgot. Back to the cottage, boy. The moon hanging in the sky had waned to the shape of a cat's claw. Stars Stars twinkled brightly to make up for the lacking moonlight. Thin clouds whisked by in the night breeze, casting a shadow over the forest. Harij stealthily made his way through the forest while blending into the dark. The bell announced a visitor with a ding-a-ling, and Rose quietly peered outside through the window. The dock across the lake was faintly illuminated by a lantern's flame. Spotting the person she had been eagerly awaiting caused her heart to race. The orange light swayed in the dark like a jack-o'-lantern as it steadily crossed the distance. Rose felt restless, like a hen in a henhouse frightened by an intruder who came to steal her eggs. Hi, Cotton Candy Core. Welcome. She opened her closet. Inside was a viridian blue robe Tian gifted her the other day. The robe was expertly woven with silk threads of the same color, just slightly more subdued, embroidering the cuffs and hemline. Rose was grateful to Tian, but she had yet to wear this robe in front of anyone. When she stopped to think about it with a clear head, she realized wearing it would be like announcing she had ordered a new outfit just for Harij, and she definitely wasn't doing that, or she just likes indigo. Yeah, she wasn't trying to match the guy that she's been desperately in love with for 4 years. No siree. In the end, she stowed the robe deep within the closet with a sigh after petting it. As for the lipstick and blush, she didn't have the courage to even try them on, as bad as that made her feel about Tian's generosity. She wanted Harij to remember her as herself, and not as a foolish wish. I can't read! She wanted Harij to remember her as herself and not as a foolish witch who tried too hard to put on makeup and doll herself up. A dull thud came from beside her hovel, the sound of the boat docking at the island. Rose dusted off her old mended robe with a few pats. She looked at her reflection in the water jug and improved her complexion by pinching both cheeks. Then she shuffled over to the door and waited. Afraid that nervousness made her face look tight and ugly, She began counting in her head. By the time she reached 6, she sensed someone in front of the door. 7, 8, 9. Just as she was wondering whether she was counting numbers or her own racing heartbeat, there was a knock. Rose slowly breathed in and opened the door. The bell jingled overhead. Welcome. Did you get a hold of what I asked for? My voice isn't shaking, is it? I don't have a stupid grin on my face, do I? Rose looked up at her visitor after taking special care to school her appearance. Harij was quite tall, so Rose had to crane her neck back to see his face. He's good looking no matter when I see him. She wanted to enjoy the sight of him. He handed her the lantern, which had been removed from its stick. She placed it on top of the fireplace, as was her custom. She needed to lock her jaw to keep from smiling at the city lantern perched beside her tiny old one.
Yeah, check for yourself.
Oh, so inky! Rose accepted the ingredients with both hands. Harij pulled out a chair from the table and heavily sat down. She was grateful for visitors who could seat themselves. Some among her clients wouldn't sit unless she pulled out the chair for them. Although, since she didn't really care if they sat down, she never did. Harij heaved a loud sigh. He seemed frustrated, which led Rose to quietly inquire, "Are you tired? I have a potion to replenish your energy." Wait, did he record this line?
Don't need it.
Oh, yep. Instant refusal. Even in the poorly lit room, she could read the clear skepticism on his face. Apparently, he didn't believe in witches' secret potions. Then why request a love potion? Rose sensibly pretended not to notice the contradiction. She had already spent too much time miserably thinking of all the reasons why he came seeking a love potion. I'm glad I didn't put on lipstick. Depressed, she slowly moved past the cauldron to her workspace. She tried to slide open the cabinet door next to her workbench, but something was jammed inside. She placed the materials from Harij on the workbench, then grabbed the sliding door with both hands and yanked it to the side. Crash! Shatter! Something definitely broke inside the cabinet, but she pretended not to hear it. Feeling someone's gaze on her back, Rose turned around only to be met with Harij's incredulous stare.
Did something just break?
Rose didn't answer. Anything she chose to say ran the risk of being a lie.
Can you clean up the place a bit?
Unfortunately, there's no magic that can automatically clean a room.
You have hands.
Rose answered his inquisitorial stare with a shrug. Her 2 hands could cast magic, yes, but they couldn't clean a room. For she was a witch, no matter what anyone had to say about it. Because I'm a witch was her response. Indefinitely. Girl, I would have been hella embarrassed. Me too! Me too! How is she not embarrassed? Girl, you're worried about being stinky and looking ugly, but not about your own space looking like a mess. Assuming the conversation was over, she proceeded to look through what Harij had brought, which turned out to be exactly what she had asked for. She was about to get to work when he started asking again.
Hey, what is this?
Huh? Oh, that's lettuce from a few days ago. Harij was obviously disgusted by the plate of wilted greens he picked up off the table. Those were the leftovers of what she had been snacking on while mixing a potion and had forgotten about when her work demanded her full attention. Condensation covered the lettuce and it smelled funky. The parts touching the plate were completely discolored, and not even Rose considered it edible now. Then throw it away! Why is it still on the plate? She's so messy.
You only ever eat lettuce, Lady Witch? Is there a special reason for that?
No. Lettuce is the only vegetable grown in my garden. I can snack on it without any prep work aside from washing the leaves.
Huh?
There was a 1-second pause before he said the same word again.
Huh? Lettuce is all you consume?
I eat other food when I go out, but it's my staple diet, yes. Does he have a problem with that? Is he interested in what witches eat? This time, Rose gave a skeptical nod. Harij rose from his chair, careful not to knock anything over, and skirted around the cauldron to get to her. He grabbed her arm while she was too surprised to react, moving so fast she didn't even see him reach for her. His movement was befitting of his rank as a super elite S-class knight, but she wished he would show more restraint around her.
Chicken legs have more meat on them than this.
You surely jest. Harij was holding her wrist and closely assessing her. Sweat threatened to burst out of the pores on her face. Why does she keep telling the truth? Where did you find these light novel stories? I'm reading this off of BookWalker. Yeah. Okay, let's see. No matter what this man says, he has a nice face. I don't care how many times I've thought this tonight. He really is handsome. His eyelashes, which seemed to have 4 times the volume and length of hers, fluttered every time he blinked. Unable to endure the weapon that was his face being so close to her any longer, Rose turned her head away. That finally made Harij realize he wasn't dealing with one of his subordinates.
Sorry,
he said, releasing her hand. Don't be. It took everything she had just to utter those 2 words. Under her robe, she pressed a hand against her rollicking heart. It was pounding like crazy. After Thank you. Thank you for the sub, Ray the Gay, for 20. I appreciate it. Thank you. After regaining a modicum of calm, she spoke to him in a commanding witch's voice. I shall proceed with the preparations using the ingredients you have brought me thus far. The next step takes time, so please come back in a month.
You need more time?
In response to the depressed grumble she heard above her, Rose gave a professional bow of her head. And that is the end of chapter 1. Next, chapter 2. The Dangerous Apple for Witches. Now, this chapter, from what I remember, is a pretty lengthy one. So I think, yeah. We'll be reading this for another good hour. These are very long chapters. They are. Do you prefer Furuba or My Love Story? Gonna assume Furuba. Ooh. You know what? They're both really good, but they're also both very different. Like, if I want to feel really good and laugh and feel really happy and wholesome, I prefer My Love Story. But overall, I prefer Furuba. Stay hydrated. Oh, thank you for the reminder. Okay. That was good stuff. All right, here we go. Gigantic columns of clouds soared through the azure sky. Summer was at its peak. The forest had become more vibrant. Yet, no matter how green the woods turned, the lake maintained an icy bite. Strands of pale pink hair drifted atop the rippling water. As Rose floated on the surface, her chemise... Did I say that right? Chemise? Chemise? Her chemise spread as if blooming on the lake. For someone who hated bathing. Hated bathing? For someone who hated bathing, she had taken to the lake quite often these days. Chemise. Surely it was due to the hot weather. She had no other special reason for it. She's powered from Chainsaw Man. Stinky Goro. Since Tian had paid her a visit just the other day, he wasn't likely to come by anytime soon. Besides, even if he or someone else happened to spot her bathing, she wouldn't even bat an eye or blush. It was the same as being seen by a smug deer. She had informed Harij that there wasn't anything for him to do for another month. He wasn't the type to pay a visit for no reason. And it was noontime anyway. Harij never came to the witch's abode while the sun was up. The month she told him to wait felt both long and short. Loneliness from not seeing him and satisfaction from staying in Harij's memories just that much longer warred within, exhausting Rose. She was a pro at controlling her emotions, but she didn't know how uncontrollable love could be. Nevertheless, the 1-month period was actually necessary for processing the raw materials. The only reason she told Harij the exact amount of time was that witches couldn't tell a lie. This was why only witches could make potions that were too powerful and potent for human hands to handle. A witch who used the lie of magic could not use lies other than magic. Oh god. Thank you for the sub, Mario Fan 82. Hi, Emily. I have been just vibing with the Sword Art Online stuff. I'm addicted to this series. I cannot help it. Anyway, you were still awesome, Emily. Ah, thank you. 11:17, I assume? Yes, it's 11:17 a.m. for me. Thus, witches isolated themselves from mankind and lived as a different species. Acting unfriendly and being creepy like creatures that go bump in the night were some of the methods they used to prevent others from discovering they couldn't tell a lie. That's their big secret, I guess. Can't lie. Rose also imitated the witches of the past and treaded with care in every manner of life so as not to have her one weakness exposed. She kept contact with people to a minimum and meticulously controlled her words and facial expressions. Her baggy robe was critical in preventing people from seeing through what she failed to conceal. That being said, all she had to do was just not lie. Dodging the truth and changing the topic were great alternatives. As luck would have it, Rose had no qualms about doing just that. Following that method thus far was what allowed her to survive alone for years. Guess I should wash my chemise too. With weather this good, it should dry within a few hours. The robe and dress she had just finished washing hung from a rope she tied between two trees. Rose swam to shore to add her chemise to the space between them. She shook her drenched body like a wet dog, then untied the chemise's strap at her back, and the fabric fell to her feet. Since the fancy green robe was her only change of clothes, she was stuck waiting for the laundry to dry, naked. After all, she didn't want to dirty her new robe yet. The chemise, soaked with water, was quite heavy. She folded it several times and squeezed it tight. While she focused on twisting the fabric, water dripped onto it from her hair, adding a moisture right back in. Ah, darn it! Chest-length pale pink hair clung to her skin. Everything about this was starting to annoy her, so she unfurled the chemise and shook it out. The water droplets returned to the lake with a lyrical splishity-splash. Entertained, she became enthralled in repeating the same action, like a kid. She became so distracted that she completely let down her guard. When she heard the bell inside ring to announce a visitor, she turned around with the assumption it was a smug deer checking her out again. She made eye contact with the man standing directly across the shore from her. It was such a shock she couldn't breathe. Harij was there. Rose froze with her unfolded chemise in hand. Harij, standing on the forest side bank, was also paralyzed as he gaped at her. For a long moment, they both stared at each other, forgetting to breathe. Rose needs a caretaker. How old is she? Yeah, she's still naked. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Small forest songbirds sang with their beautiful voices. Harij wrenched away his gaze first.
I'm sorry.
He presented her with his bag with great speed. From the sound of his voice, she gathered how shaken the usually composed knight was. Rose let out a dry laugh. She's just out there booty butt naked. The title is Hello, I'm a Witch and my crush... when my crush wants me to make him a love potion, I'm mortified for her. His face was surely redder than a tomato. Her heart raced so hard it hurt. She threw her wet chemise on the rope, hid it underneath her robe, and rushed inside the house, covering her hot face with both hands. She leaned against the front door and slid down to her bottom. The strength left her legs. Did he see me? He saw me! He totally saw me! Saw this pale skin and my unshapely figure without a corset on! Rose couldn't care less if Tian or another client saw her naked, but him? Being seen by him made her feel unbearably ashamed. I can't believe it. I was sure he wouldn't come. I told him it would take a month, and it's daytime. What in the world brought him out here? Rose's brain felt as if it were boiling over, but she remembered that Harij was still outside. She couldn't keep him waiting forever. She forced herself to her trembling feet and scrambled over to the closet. She had no choice but to wear the robe from Tian against her bare skin. Nothing felt more uncomfortable than not having anything on underneath. Then she checked her appearance in the water jug. Reflected back at her was a normal woman with misty eyes, flushed pink cheeks, and a goofy expression. Okay. Rose gave her cheek a good slap. Then she slapped the other cheek as hard as possible. Both stung like hell, but it helped her regain a modicum of calm. She opened the front door and called out across the lake. I apologize for the wait. You may come over now. Emily, how long is the stream gonna take? Why do you sound like you want it to end so bad, huh? This girl needs an Asian parent. Alright, here we go. Harij, who had kept his back to her like a gentleman until she gave the okay, turned around with his jaw set in a rigid line. Ah! Thank you, the Shadow 1031348. Very long name. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. This is literally the cutest stream I've ever seen. Ah, thank you! Reading to chat. Thank you, I'm glad you think so. Where was I? Oh. There wasn't much distance between her island and the opposite shore, allowing Rose to clearly make out his face. Harij seemed to have calmed down as well. At least, he was calmer on the surface than Rose felt. Even when he tried desperately to hide his noble upbringing by wearing commoner clothes, some of his graceful behavior still seeped through. Under the bright sky, he was even more dazzling than usual. The fact that Rose could perfectly make him out across the lake proved that he had fully glimpsed her in her immodest lack of attire. Her head felt as if it were going to explode in panic. Harij rowed the boat across the lake and tied it to the iron dock cleat. After confirming that the boat was secured, he turned around.
Please forgive my grave indiscretion.
He hadn't done anything wrong, but she could distinguish the depth of his regret from the deep lines in his brow. She couldn't bear to look at him, and instead lowered her gaze to the deep forest green robe she wore. I'm naked under the robe. I'm standing in front of him in an outrageous state. Realizing it made all the blood rush to her head, instantly frying her brain. No need to apologize. No need for apology. I simply didn't think you would pay me a visit, Sir Harij.
You know who I am?
A muscle in Rose's cheek twitched. Uttering the name of a client she kept to her internal thoughts only Wait, what? How do you read that? Uttering the name of a client she kept to her internal thoughts only was a huge mistake she would have never made under normal circumstances. Harij's voice was tight. His apologetic expression was nowhere to be seen, and instead became the stern countenance of a knight. Rose bit her lip in frustration over her blunder. He hadn't once told her his name. She should have been fully aware of that important detail, and yet she foolishly let it slip out. It appeared the upset over being seen naked was still affecting her. Panic gnawed at her thoughts. In her heart, Rose prayed she could regain her sanity. Yes, indeed, I do.
Since when?
Rose turned down her head in fear of another slip of the tongue. She couldn't come up with the right words to evade the question. This was a first for her, which only served to further sink her into confusion.
Answer me.
But she wasn't capable of misleading Harij, who had switched into night mode. Telling the truth was the only option on the table when she lacked the mindset to cleverly talk her way out of it. Since 4 years ago.
For that long?
Yes, Please spare me. Oh, you fool, stop! Rose wanted to cast a spell on her mouth, but her lips, only capable of telling the truth, tried to find a way out of the situation with words. I never divulge my client's information, I can promise you that. I am in a very unusual situation right now. If you keep asking more questions, I will be forced to come clean about everything. Rose became so panicked she lacked oxygen. Her head spun. She couldn't stop blabbing.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Harij gave her a dubious stare. Rose saw the look in his eyes and was propelled into further inner chaos. After all, she was naked under the single piece of cloth she wore. But witches cannot tell a lie. Such is the price of using magic. Oh no, I'm a failure. I've exposed the witch's greatest secret that is never to be spoken of. Rose turned around and banged her head against the wall. She couldn't come up with a better idea to silence her panic.
Hey.
Harij was confused by the sudden drastic change in Rose's behavior caused by his questioning. Please don't ask. I truly am sorry, she confessed breathlessly. No longer slamming her head against the wall, her forehead turned bright red where she had been hitting it repeatedly, and it was covered in small scratches. If Harij kept querying her, Rose would definitely reveal all her secrets without leaving anything out. She couldn't let that happen. She felt guilty towards all the other witches for exposing their weakness, but what was done was done. She would just have to protect themselves in the unlikely event that Harij spread their secret. Witches were capable of doing so. They would absolutely look after themselves. Rose strongly believed that. For that reason, Rose was far more frightened of Harij discovering her feelings and the witch's deepest secret. She would rather die than suffer the miserable plight of him, the strong, handsome nobleman blessed by the sun, discovering that she, a mere witch who was neither a noblewoman, a beauty, or a village girl, loved him. That's right. It was such an obvious fact. It entirely escaped Rose's mind that she was a witch. Witches specialized in potion making, and potions were used for more than just healing. One of their many uses was poison. Eyes reddened from her crazed mental state, Rose rushed to the back of the hermitage and ransacked the small vials on the shelf. The glass vials collided with each other, loudly clanging and clinking. She snatched up the potion she sought, one that could bring down the biggest ox in a matter of seconds. Rose was putting pressure in her fingers to pop the cork, but Harij hugged her from behind.
I understand.
Oh, whoops. Oh no! I must have forgotten to tell him to record this line. Okay, hold on. Pretend I have the voice. What are you doing? Rather than a hug, it was more accurate to say she was being restrained from behind. Harij swiftly snatched the vial away from Rose, the same way he might confiscate the murder weapon from a culprit. Damn, she was really about to knock herself out with poison. It happened so fast, the momentum knocked Rose to the ground. In the process, her robe spread open, exposing her bare thigh. Oh! In a flurry, she pulled the robe back into place. Nah, she better than me because I would have just left it open. Using the... Oh no! Oh goodness! Thank you for the bits. I'm a Rose hater. If there's one Rose hater on the planet, it's me. If there are no Rose haters, I'm dead. She's the girl failure ever. I'm not trying to put on a show here. I may be a witch, but I'm not a slut. Oh my god, Rose. No one was accusing you of that. Most of my earnings go towards ingredients for the next potion, and, I don't care much about fashion, so that's why I don't have a change of clothes. Rose! Jesus!
Stan.
Oh, sorry. Let me just move this. Wait, hold on. Why won't it? Okay, here we go.
I understand.
Oh no, what have I done? Hold on. Oh no, the audio! Hang on. Let me fix this really quick. Okay, there we go. Ankles? The audacity, I know.
I understand. Just wait before you do anything foolish.
Harich said to calm her, a hint of exasperation on his face. Oh, what's this? Ah, thank you. Thank you for the bits. Not her slut shaming.
I'm sorry, truly. I can see that you are far more disturbed by what happened than you appear, Lady Witch.
He placed Rose's poison vial on the workbench. Then he offered his gloveless hand to her, where she was still crouched on the floor. Rose stiffened with her eyes locked on that hand. How long had it been since someone last reached out to her? She was positive it had happened while her grandmother was still alive, but it was so long ago she couldn't remember. Harich didn't scorn her for being too scared to take his hand. On the contrary, he gently put an arm around her shoulders, helped her to her feet, and escorted her to a chair as he might a noblewoman. He knelt down on one knee before the witch, whose head was spinning too hard to keep up with what was happening. He, Harich Azam, the man Rose had been crushing on for 4 long years, was kneeling before a mere witch. An even worse wave of dizziness crashed over her. If they end up together, it's a goddamn miracle.
I apologize for exposing a secret that would make you choose death, Lady Witch. I swear on my honor as a knight that I will take it to the grave with me. You have my solemn oath. Please, believe me.
Oh, so soft and warm. In response, Rose could only manage to nod her head like a broken doll. His voice stopped. She didn't take the pure and humble path of correcting his misunderstanding. Instead, she gripped her hands in front of her robe, making it look as if she was trying to keep the two sides together. How did you know that the potion I tried to take was poison?
I didn't know what the vial contained, but I recognized the look in your eyes. Cornered suspects usually share that same look when they are about to attempt a risky escape. I'm glad I made it in time.
Harich exhaled a great sigh of relief. Realizing he cared just as much about the life of a mere witch made Rose fall head over heels for him all over again. Do you deserve him, Rose? Let's be honest. Do you? Harich, forget Rose, come to me. As her gaze stayed plastered on him, Harich stood with a wry smile. Then he went outside, only to return with a basket a moment later.
I'd have no choice but to finish this all by myself if I hadn't.
The basket was full of bread. Moreover, it looked like soft white bread.
You don't eat much, right? You are a young lady. You need more meat on your bones. Especially since you handle potions. Potion making is fraught with danger as it is. You won't last long if you fall ill, thin as you are.
No way. Did he go out of his way to come during the day just for that? I can't believe it. Rose looked from the bread to Harich. Midwife! Midwife, Harich! Thank you. A trembling heart, an aching chest. Rose didn't know how to describe the way she felt. Fulfillment spread through her. Oh. Thank you for the bits, normal trout. He's Sino, isn't he? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Oh, where am I? Her heart raced so hard she couldn't breathe. She wanted to cling to him and cry. He's worried about me. That meant, for even the briefest moment, he thought about her. She had been in his thoughts just enough that when he saw bread in the market, he decided to buy it for Rose, even though she wasn't with him. Oh, so this is joy. Rose tasted emotion for the first time. She was unbelievably happy that the person she loved went out of his way for her. Will I remain in his memories? Will he think back on the strange witch who only ever ate lettuce? Rose needed nothing more than for him to think of her even once the next time he saw lettuce. It looks delicious. She accepted the basket from him and could feel the bread was still a little warm. Wait, hold on. Give me 1 second. Hang on. 1 second. Sorry, Didas was playing Screamo music in the living room and it was very distracting. I had to ask him to turn it down. Okay, where was I? She accepted the basket from him and could feel the bread was still a little warm. She had eaten bread while her grandmother was still alive and during her occasional visits to the capital. But this was... Oh! Hello, Curbs Maddie! Thank you for the bits! Give me my silver badge back. Oh! But this was the first time she had seen such soft-looking bread. A lump formed in her chest and throat, and tears misted her eyes. In contrast, Harij raised a skeptical eyebrow.
Wait, you plan to eat there?
Hmm? Yes, why wouldn't I? Harij stopped Rose as she was about to pick up a piece of bread from the basket she had placed on top of her lap.
Clean off this table first.
He pointed to the table crammed with a mess of haphazardly piled junk. The lettuce from God knows when was left out to die again. Bitch, clean your lettuce! Pointing out her messy living space wasn't meant to give her the peace of mind that it did. Rose felt as if she had finally regained a semblance of her normal self. This is why nobles make poor guests.
I can hear you.
You're meant to. Bitch, you sloth! she needs a welfare check. Oh my gosh, she's a mess. Rose wrestled with a mountain of odds and ends until the table was clean. Harij then spread out a tablecloth. Why, the elite knight had even brought that. He had likely suspected that the one belonging to this table was buried somewhere amid the dirt and clutter. Though Rose was loath to admit it, he was right on the money. The ironed tablecloth was tasteful but simple, and it fit nicely in the witch's small hermitage. Sunlight shining through the small window fell upon the quaint table set.
Where is the bread knife?
Will a kitchen knife do?
It will.
Rose expressed her thanks for his lenience on her lack of knife choices and selected the cleanest knife from her workbench.
I also bought butter.
I have spoons for measuring ingredients. She returned with a small cutting board and a wooden spoon and took her seat. Harij, the man she had pined after for 4 years. Take a shot every time this light novel reminds you that she's been in love with him for 4 years. They're dirty, probably. Sat directly across from her. Rose blinked 3 times to make sure he wasn't a figment of her imagination. He didn't vanish. She wasn't daydreaming. 4 years ago, or rather, up until this afternoon, she never dreamed this day would come.
Supposedly...
Oh God. Oh no, I read that too. I played that too soon. This is an unusual butter.
Supposedly it's apple butter. I heard it tastes good on bread. Supposedly it's apple...
Oh God, I played it again. My bad. Sorry. I fucked up. Fascinating. I love apples, so I can't wait to try it. Thick and creamy butter filled the small jar he placed on the table. It was much thicker than the butter Rose used for potions. While Rose curiously examined the jar, Harij sliced the bread. He took a huge helping of apple butter with the wooden spoon and spread it on a slice. Apple pieces could be seen in the juicy butter glaze. Oh God, my mouth is watering. Ah! Rose's mouth watered and she swallowed in anticipation. Hold on. Thick and creamy, huh? Hold on. Hang on. I have a little bit of chili. I'm gonna take a bite really quick because they're describing food and I'm getting hungry. Hold on. Let me just take a quick bite break. Mmm. Oh my god. Mmm. Oh my god, it's good. Mmm. Alright, sorry. Give me a second. I haven't eaten anything yet. Good day. Mmm. Ugh. You over here eating the chili without the cornbread? I'm so sad for you. Listen, it's impossible to find good cornbread in Japan, among other things. Bye, Green Bun Bun. Thank you for staying as long as you did. Have a good rest of your day. Okay, one more bite. Mmm. Hi, Leighton Worlds. Welcome back. Okay. Oh, this was good. Okay, I can continue. Okay. Me eating, streaming. Okay, listen. I have to do a lot of talking this stream, okay? Really works up the appetite. Okay. Ah, thank you for the bits, Normal Trow. Alright, next page. There we go. Am I in the right? Okay.
Yep, here.
Thank you. With both hands, she picked up the slice he'd placed on the plate. It was several times softer than she had imagined. All this time, she had only ever eaten hard bread, the kind that usually had to be dipped in soup. This bread's softness almost made it slip from her grasp. The butter sparkled in the sunlight, and the sweet scent of apple tickled her nose. She took a big bite and swallowed. Rose's eyes widened in not in panic, oh god. Rose's eyes widened in surprise. She followed it up with another big bite. Ah, hi Deadmind. Thanks for the follow on Twitch, Emily. Of course! I really appreciate that. I love your content. You're an amazing person. Oh, thanks! You're so sweet. Hope you're having a good day so far. And thank you for the bits. The second bite was just as impactful. It was that delicious. Soft, fluffy bread filled her mouth. It was not only soft, but chewy. This was Rose's first time experiencing such a mysterious texture, and the apple butter exceeded her expectations. Oh god, I'm getting hungry. The consistency of the mashed apples was as good as the milky butter. The rich apple and butter flavors married into a heavenly deliciousness. I had to burp. I'm sorry. Rose lost herself in scarfing it down. Harij watched with mixed emotions as Rose devoured the bread with such intensity it seemed she'd forgotten about the guest sitting across from her. Thinking back, today was truly a chaotic day for him. Members of the Asm family had been recorded in the noble family directory as supporters of the kingdom of Marjan for generations. Oh, we're getting some Harij backstory. Okay. Born as the third son of a count. I can't freaking read. Born as the third son of a count, Harij was knighted at the age of 20. His primary duty as a royal knight was guarding Princess Bilara. Bilara was still young enough to be called a girl, but she had all the traits of a wonderful princess: an amiable personality, a charitable heart, decorum, and unending generosity. Balara's older brother, the second prince, was also Harij's childhood friend. Because Harij had known Balara since she was a little girl, he treasured her like a younger sister, even though he knew it was presumptuous of him. Balara also relied on Harij as though he was really her older brother, but she never once demanded anything of him or acted spoiled, until that day. I beg of you, Harij, this is the only thing I will ever ask of you. Please do me this favor, not as a knight serving his princess's orders, but as a favor to the girl Laura, who adores you like a brother. Laura pleaded with him in the voice of a broken-hearted girl, while the determination of a nation's princess gleamed in her eyes. Please, obtain a love potion for me. Ah, so he's getting a love potion for her. Okay. That kind of potion only distorts a person's mind and manipulates further future actions, both against a drinker's will. Harij was absolutely against it. However, he also couldn't reject such a heartfelt request from Balara, who, until now, had never once asked him for even the smallest of favors. Visiting the witch as a knight in direct service to Princess Balara risked scandalizing her name. Thus, Harij paid the witch a clandestine visit. The witch's dwelling place was said to be hidden deep within the forest, the exact location a mystery. After losing his way more times than he would like to admit, Harij arrived at a hovel that looked as if it would be blown right off its foundation during a windstorm. This was the witch's hermitage. And the first witch he had ever met lived in a room that was shockingly dark and dirty. She always hid under a baggy old robe and sent him away on awfully questionable fetch quests. As time passed, his suspicion of the witch escalated. There was no common ground between this upright knight who lived for justice and the witch who was entirely shrouded in darkness. This was why he had been greatly surprised to see the witch surface from the water. He thought he had stumbled across a fairy living in the lake. The sight of her was too surreal. He assumed she didn't venture into the sunlight much, for her pure white skin was as beautiful as snow. The court noblewomen who dusted their faces with white powder to achieve a similar look would surely be jealous. Try as he might, Harij couldn't tear his gaze from her, and the water droplets sparkling in her pale pink tresses. He hadn't thought she was an old woman, but he'd never imagined she was a young lady either. It never even occurred to Harij that a woman this young would be living out here alone. By the time Harij put two and two together and realized it wasn't a fairy but the witch, she noticed his presence. Her dark green eyes, which usually stayed hidden beneath the shadow of her hood, had widened. Harij sincerely regretted his actions. He had been too stunned by the sight of her that he failed to look away and ended up with a clear view of her naked body, without realizing it would so unsettle the always composed witch that she'd choose to take her own life with poison rather than face him. On the bright side, the incident taught Harij a lot. He learned the witch was a young woman and that witches were incapable of lying in spite of how suspicious they appeared. All those unreasonable, merciless tasks she gave weren't to get rid of him, but were necessary for the potion. He thought all this time that she was ripping him off, when it turned out she could hardly afford to have a dress made because a majority of her asking price went to materials. He discovered that the witch he could never get a good read on was actually a normal woman capable of embarrassment. And lastly, he learned that she was very fond of bread spread with apple butter.
Do you live here alone, Lady Witch?
When he bought the freshly baked bread in the city, it was actually because he was afraid the thin witch would die from starvation before finishing the potion. She wasn't on the brink of death, of course, but seeing her apple-colored cheeks stuffed with bread, he knew he'd made the right choice. He should take his leave soon given her present attire, but the recent memory of how she'd curled in on herself, prepared to take her own life in a bout of depression, made him fear she might truly die if he left her alone right now. Wait, he's definitely thinking, like, I can fix her. This is one of those I can fix her stories. I can change her. He is a knight after all. He was relieved she enjoyed the bread that he'd rushed outside to get for her. Showing poor table manners, the witch licked the apple butter off her fingers and stared at Harij. Yes, I live alone.
Isn't that too dangerous?
It was already risky enough for anyone to live alone, and those dangers multiplied for a young woman. While there may not be many crooks willing to sneak into a shady old witch's abode, there was an endless supply of scoundrels ready to steal inside a beautiful young lady's home. The witch blinked at him as if to inquire why he would ask such a question at this juncture. She eats solid water, she gotta go. He couldn't very well admit that he'd had the wrong idea about her age all this time, so Harij cleverly chose silence. Well, it can be, but I avoid the danger by keeping to myself, and I don't get many visitors. Whenever someone questionable comes by, I immediately hide in the cellar under the floorboards. From the way she spoke, he gathered she had experienced that quite often. Imagining the witch waiting, shivering in the dark under the floorboards for some scoundrel to leave was cause for great concern.
You have been living like this all along?
Yes, my entire life, the witch said without inflection. She spoke as if it were only natural, being alone and looking out for herself, as if it was a fact that didn't need mentioning. It worried Harij, but he couldn't find the right words to say in response. He said, "Damn, girl, you live like this?" It just wasn't proper. A young lady deserved to be kept safe by someone, whether that be their guardian or by their guardian preparing a dowry and marrying them off. Women should be protected. Harij was raised with that belief, as most noblemen were. Yet, even if he held such a belief, what could he say as someone who was neither involved with nor responsible for her? So Harij did the one thing he could and smeared apple butter on a second slice of bread and placed it in front of the witch. This time, he applied double the amount.
Pardon the intrusion.
Of all the... Oh, so this is the next day, by the way. Of all the unbelievable things, Harij came the next day too, carrying yet another delicious-smelling basket with him to boot. There was still plenty of time before 1 month to prep the potion... Wait, what? There was still plenty of time before the 1 month to prep the potion was up. Wait, what? There was still plenty of time before the 1 month to prep the potion was up. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was reading that right. Harij should have been well aware he had no business to attend to at the witch's hermitage right now. He gracefully took a seat and waited after handing the food over to Rose, who stared at him with a muscle twitching in her cheek. "I beg your pardon, but my home isn't a destination for hanging out," Rose said bluntly, unsure of why he came. Girl, why are you complaining? Still, she couldn't stop from taking an excited peek inside the basket. Yesterday's bread tasted heavenly. Whatever he brought today, she had high expectations for it. She's such a freeloader! After what happened yesterday, Rose was afraid that things were going to become even more awkward than before, but it had quite the opposite effect. She was able to speak more naturally with him now. It turned out to be a good case of shock therapy. Well, at least I forgot what I showed off yesterday. It totally didn't happen. Hold on, did you record this line?
Don't worry about it.
Harij said, taking out a book he had on him. He then proceeded to read it. She had no idea what his comment or his actions meant, but she was willing to let it slide because the goodies he brought today smelled heavenly. What taste is waiting for me? I want to cut into it this instant. She's more excited about the food than seeing the man she's been in love with for 4 years. Rose, who hadn't experienced a regular diet before, was entirely fascinated by everything Harij brought. It was safe to say that he had tamed her with food. She's like a raccoon. When she stood in the former kitchen where her workbench had taken over, Harij peered up from his book and said,
Put a lot of tea leaves in my cup.
Oh, right. It didn't occur to her to serve him tea. Until now, Harij had left the moment his business was finished, implying he didn't want to stay in her hovel a second longer than necessary. So, was this his way of declaring he had planned to stay for a while? What in the world changed his mind? The witch's hermitage was neither a hangout nor a cafe, but she couldn't refuse him after he'd delivered delicious food to her. He brings her food and she can't get attitude. Somehow, Rose managed to open and close a cabinet that was still a terrible mess with some mighty loud crashes, all while successfully unearthing a tea tin. She had received it ages ago as a thank you gift from a certain esteemed member of the peerage for preparing a secret potion. Rose looked inside and couldn't help but utter aloud, "Oh dear, it's moldy."
Stop right there! You better not be planning on brewing that.
Moldy-astic! Oh my god, she's a mess! Harit stormed over to Rose and snatched the tea tin from her hand. Next to the stunned witch, Harit peeked into the tin. After a long moment, he softly closed the lid in silence.
I'll bring some tea leaves with me tomorrow.
Nah, maybe the poison was a good idea. If you say so. Wait, what? You're coming again tomorrow?
Yes. Do you have any tea preferences?
No, I certainly do not. But Rose fumbled over her response. She was bewildered by the sudden increase in Harit's visits. It wasn't necessarily a problem, because other visitors never came during this hour, and he wouldn't distract her from her potion making. The real problem was whether her heart would last with the object of her affections being around all the time. This is not a very likable MC, I do have to say. Oblivious to her feelings, Harit cocked an eyebrow.
But...
Well, I was wondering if you have the time to visit this often.
I visit because I have the time.
Of course he does. Rose stated the obvious in her thoughts.
My subordinates have been on my case about not taking any days off. They apparently want me to use up my paid leave until the large-scale reassignment takes place soon.
Ignorant of the way of the world, Rose could only tilt her head.
Long story short, instead of taking a whole day off, I'm extending my lunch breaks.
Harit put it in simpler terms, but Rose still couldn't quite wrap her head around the concept. But what she did take away from it was that Harit was going out of his way to visit her, with gift baskets of food. Feeling Rose's gaze upon him, Harit glanced out the window.
I can relax here.
She followed his gaze out the window to where greenery grew in abundance. Summer in the forest was Rose's favorite season of the year. Young green sprouts took over, and sunlight shone through the tree cover, brightening the year-long dark forest. Do you like the woods?
Yeah.
Me too. I like it a lot. Rose had been looking at the woods since the day she was born and still never tired of it. For a witch who lived together with nature, the changes in the forest were also a lifeline. Keeping a careful eye on even the smallest of daily changes allowed her to discover new things every day. The same could also be said of her crush. Delighted by this new discovery, her lips spread into a slight smile behind her sleeve. I'm afraid I don't have any black tea. Will hot water do?
Good enough.
Harit seemed surprised by her offering plain hot water, but he didn't complain. His attitude toward her had softened significantly. Perhaps he was staying longer not just because he enjoyed the forest, but also because he had gotten used to being in the presence of the witch. Rose opened the basket while she waited for the water to boil in the pot. In the pot. Oh, wait, I lost my... huh? Oh. Inside was a gorgeous tart that dazzled the eye like the most cherished jewelry inside a noblewoman's jewelry box. What is this, sir?
Tarte tatin, supposedly.
Tarte tatin? Even the name had a lovely ring to it. Rose couldn't help repeating it. Tarte tatin. She was enjoying the tart before she even tasted it. The tarte tatin resembled an apple pie that had been accidentally turned over. Apples cut in various sizes and shapes, then sautéed in butter and sugar, sat snugly in the pie pan. Oh god, I'm hungry. The caramelized apples twinkled in the sunlight like gems. I'm hungry! No. It would be a waste to eat such a work of art. Rose deeply inhaled the rich aroma. The smell of spices and juicy apples intermingled with the sweetness. She caught a hint of what might be cinnamon and rum. Oh my... Why do they have to get so detailed with the food? Hold on, I need another bite of my chili. I need another bite of chili. I'm so hungry. Ugh. Oh, hydrate. Yes, right. Thank you. Okay. Actually, I need to get more water. I will be RB. Give me 1 second. I will only be gone for like a minute. I need to get more water. Right, be right back. Oh my god. I'm getting dizzy. Okay. Alright, where was I? Oh god, I keep talking about the food. Okay. Cutting it with a kitchen knife proved difficult. Although the evenly sautéed apples were tender, Rose had to apply pressure to cut through the harder bottom layer. When she cut into the corner, her knife sliced into a hardened piece of caramel with a crisp crunch. Oh my god, that sounds so good. She stifled a tiny scream at the sound that reminded her of cutting through bone. Oh, ew. A sigh of relief slipped from her when she finally managed to cut a piece. The dessert was beautiful from above, but the cross-sectional view was yet another sight to behold. The tender, sweetly sautéed apples looked like they drank a cup of caramel and then napped in what they couldn't finish. Oh my god. The dark amber interior drew a beautiful contrast with the browned pastry crust, making Rose wish she could stare at it forever. But a tart's true value came from eating it. She returned to the table with the cups of hot water and slices of tarte tatin. Harid put his book aside to eat. Thank you for dessert, Rose said, expressing her gratitude, and plunged her fork into her slice. Soft apples spilled out of the pastry. She glanced over at Harid. The tart maintained its perfect shape for him as he ate it with a poised expression. Rose brought the tart to her mouth in nervous anticipation. The invigorating smell of apples and the bittersweet caramel brought Rose great joy. Oh my, I have to order a pastry after this. I can't do this. The rose may have been cooked out of the apples until they turned translucent, but their crunch was alive and well. Oh my god, I'm hungry! I'm hungry! Before such divine deliciousness, Rose put down her fork and prayed. God was here. This story, this light novel is called Hello, I'm a Witch and my crush wants me to make him a potion. Or make him a love potion, sorry. Harij briefly watched her reaction before moving his fork without saying anything. Rose washed the dishes as soon as they finished eating. She was confident she would leave them lying around collecting mold if she waited for Harij to leave. Though it was extra work, she told herself washing dishes took less effort than the rest of life's necessities as she forced her hands to move. For that matter, she felt insecure serving Harij food on the dishes she used herself, especially if he planned to come more frequently. Wow, she actually cleaned a dish? Rose's grandma ain't teach her nothing. The few times she had served him so far, it was done on mismatched plates. The dishes her grandmother used while she was still alive must have been somewhere in the hanging cabinet above the sink. Rose tried in vain to reach the cabinet. Instead, her brand new Viridian blue robe got splashed with water. After wearing it once, she had realized it was just like every other cloth. Now she wouldn't hesitate to wear it while making potions or working in the field. Standing on tiptoe didn't do the trick either, so she gave up to search for a good-sized wooden box to stand on.
What are you trying to get down?
Harij asked from directly behind her. Oh, don't trouble yourself, sir. Please sit back down. As someone who rarely interacted with others, Rose wasn't used to people showing her the kindness most took for granted. Experiencing just a simple taste of kindness from her crush made her heart melt. She didn't want to fall even harder for him to the point she couldn't dig herself out.
Which is it? Just tell me.
However, she was dealing with a nobleman. Rose had learned from her experience as a witch that things went faster if she just went along with her noble client's whims. Oh, whoops. All right. Can I impose upon you to open the left cabinet door? It was easier said than done. The stuffed cabinet refused to open. It took a lot of effort to pry it open, even a crack.
Move. You might get hurt by the stuff that falls out when I wrench it open.
No. You might get hurt instead.
You think a few things falling from a cabinet could hurt me?
He gave her an incredulous look, but every human was capable of being hurt. Besides, Harij's handsome face was a work of art. Should his beautiful face get bruised, Rose might go wild with the desire to rub every salve in the house on it. Please.
All right. I'll open it carefully, so stand back a few steps.
Why should I stand back if he's going to be careful? Rose was a sensible witch and determined that any further questioning would only make them both become stubborn, so she stepped away from the cabinet. Harij inserted his hand and a rod into the opening she had managed to make and moved back, the stuff jammed against the door. After he finally yanked open the cabinet door, a variety of items fell out. Harij caught everything with the nimble hands of a juggler. Bravo!
You should really learn how to clean.
Rose chose to answer with silence, and she couldn't lie! Oh my god, bitch, you are so gross! Harij carefully placed the outpour of objects on the floor and repeated his query.
So which item did you need?
The one behind that jar. Oh, be sure not to touch that tiny bottle. Please make sure not to brush your hand against the paper bag beside it either. It's towards the back, to the left, near the corner. On the right. With his patience diminishing, Harij grimaced at her.
You find it.
What? She was in the air before she could react. He held her up by the waist.
Grab it.
Okay. Rose wasn't sure if this was when she should turn red or blue, but she followed orders anyway. In a flurry, she rummaged through the cabinet until she found the wooden box in question. She conveyed that she had completed her mission by bobbing her head faster than a cat stalking its prey. Harij softly lowered her to the floor. With that came the end of the warmth she'd felt through her thick robe, radiating from Harij's body. Relief washed over her.
You still haven't packed on meat, huh?
Rude! What a way to check someone's weight. That settled it. He might acknowledge her as a human being, but not as a woman. Nevertheless, Rose was a witch. Whether she was viewed as a woman didn't matter. Retrieving plates from the box came first. It doesn't matter, damn it. Tears are obscuring my view. She grabbed the wooden lid and ripped it off the box with a vengeance. Then she peeled off the cloth, revealing Celadon porcelain plates without a speck of dust on them. Yes, I found them. So pretty.
Oh, the color is beautiful. It must have been made by very skilled craftsmen.
I was hoping to use these dishes during your next visit. Chills ran down her spine when she realized what she was about to say. That was the assumption of a fool who believed he would bring sweets again. Rose was disgusted with herself for harboring such hopes and fantasies.
What's wrong?
It's nothing. I just thought I should increase the tableware I have on hand to meet the recent surge in visitors I've been receiving. This is why I hate love. Why do I make such a fool out of myself? Rose felt miserable. She shouldn't have to make up such an excuse for his sake. Instead, she should have just shut her blabbering mouth. She pressed her lips together. One second, she thought Harij was staring down at her, and the next he flicked the corner of her hood. The hood slid off her head. What? She squeaked.
Come to think of it, I can't see your face.
No! You're not supposed to see my face, she shouted, completely forgetting about her stroke of depression in the shock of the moment. What do you think you're doing? She accused, quickly grabbing the sides of her hood to yank it on. Except he grabbed her hands before she could. Oh.
I told you that I can't see your face, didn't I?
And I told you that you're not supposed to, didn't I?
You sell things to your customers with your face hidden?
Yes, I do. A witch's secret potions are made of mysteries and secrets. Besides, right, it's also a way for me to protect myself.
Then it's unnecessary right now, isn't it?
More like, right now is the time when it's most necessary. Rose quickly turned away her face. The moment I told you my secret, you became the #1 person I have to keep my face hidden from. However, Rose couldn't tell him that. She didn't want to betray Harij's image of her now that he seemed to finally trust her for whatever reason. Harij tightened his grip when she delayed her answer. Rose curled her fingers into the hood and said, "Very well, then please tell me exactly why it's better for me to show you my face."
You want to know why? Well, tell me, does the rest of the world know about the witch's secret that you accidentally spoke of to me?
Rose whipped her head from side to side. He asked a preposterous question. She planned to take the secret to her grave. She hadn't even spoken of it to Tien, who had known her for many years. She couldn't speak for other witches, but she was fairly certain they kept the secret just as close to their hearts.
Then doesn't that make me the only person you can speak to with your face shown?
Rose was petrified. Harij had caught her so entirely off guard that she gaped up at him.
Aren't I the only person to whom you can honestly say, I don't want to say anything because it will be a lie when the expression shows up on your face?
Rose pressed her lips into a straight line until her teeth cut into them. Otherwise, she might let something strange slip. It would have been so much better if his reason was merely along the lines of it being rude for her to talk to him while keeping her face hidden. Then Rose wouldn't have much to fear even if she lost her hood. Never in her wildest dreams had she thought this reason would be for her sake. Harij was trying to become the one person she could truly talk to after losing her mother and grandmother, the sole people who shared her secret. Is that why he's coming here for no particular reason? He was trying to take responsibility for the secret he accidentally became privy to show Rose kindness. Finally, Rose dropped her hood and offered a thin, wry smile. It has been a long time since I've spoken to someone face to face. I might say or express something rude. She was incapable of rejecting Harij's kindness. Looking down at her smile, he gave a satisfied nod.
Your face is as cute as I thought.
Sorry. No! Okay. Man, it would be quaking. No, me too. Hold on, sorry. We gotta play that. We gotta play that one again. We gotta play that one again. She didn't deserve that.
Your face is as cute as I thought.
As I thought, I can't go through with this. Rose pulled her hood back up and kept pulling on it until the cloth covered well past her chin. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought she would die from it blowing up. Hey, Emmy, you want to send me that file? I'll post it in the mod. I'll post it in the mod chat. She had read in a book somewhere about a curse in a distant world that went something like, "Blow up and die, happy people." Surely this curse referred to the near-death experience she was having.
Sorry. My nieces have recently been on my case about calling them cute as well. I won't say it again.
Too late. This hood isn't coming off ever again.
Aw, Lady Witch, please.
Bastard! Stringing a line of black curses in her heart, Rose waited forever for it to settle down. Oh my god! Why did he beg like that? Alright. Next scene. End of that scene. Next scene. Run it! You want me to run it back? Alright, I'll run it back for you, chat. Don't worry. Play it again? What part? Okay. Here, I'll run the line back. I'll run it back. There we go. Oh, whoops.
Sorry. My nieces have recently been on my case about calling them cute as well. I won't say it again. Aw, Lady Witch, please.
I'm dehydrated. Okay, hold on. Yeah, me too. Let me take a sip. All right, next scene. I think we're nearing the last page of chapter 2. Grains of sand spilled through the neck of the hourglass, dancing into the glass below. Spices twirled on top of the black tea brewing in the pot. Just a spoonful of orange and lemon, then another. Masala, about half as tall as the second rock in the southern part of the garden, and then add half that amount of cinnamon. Spin it round and round in the milk. How much do you need? This much is what you need. That's right, my sweet, just enough for a whale to sleep. Top it off with an extra sweet sugar heap. Black pepper, cardamom, cinnamon, clove, orange peel, lemon peel, ginger. This song... Oh, that was a song? Oh, I had no idea. My bad. This song always helped Rose recall her grandmother's secret masala chai recipe. She smelled the black tea. Both the spice aroma and the song were nostalgic. For the last several years, Rose only used the stove for potion making, but she remembered all the special treats her grandmother made on it when she was still alive. Rose strained the spices and poured the exact same amount in 2 cups. It's ready. Rose turned around, her pale pink hair spreading out like a cloak in the wind, to bring the cups to the table. Someone was already seated there waiting for her. Harij had come the next day too, as promised. At this rate, he was sure to come the following day as well. Rose couldn't very well send him off on his way after she'd heard his reason for frequently visiting this part of the woods. She kept her hood off when she was alone with Harij. Nervousness over her expressions being on full display intermingled with the shy giddiness she could only assume people felt when they shook hands with a friend in town to reconfirm that friendship. As much as she wanted to keep her hood on, she couldn't stop now, not after seeing the pleased look on Harij's face every time she took it off, like a boy delighted that his dog fetched the ball he threw. Harij shut the book he was reading. 2 celadon plates sat on top of the table. Rose didn't have to feel embarrassed by what she put out now, thanks to the wooden box containing several dishes with the same pattern. Today, he brought her fluffy white bread and apple jam. The glistening jam in the jar had a sweet and tart scent that was appetizing even during the summer. Harid raised the cup to his mouth, took in the smell, and put his lips on the rim. Let's see.
It has an interesting aroma. Doesn't taste bad for something I'm trying for the first time. Tastes good with the apple jam, too.
His appraisal surprised her. To Rose, this was what tea tasted like. This is your first time with this flavor? Then what does tea normally taste like?
You generally enjoy just the tea leaves.
You don't add any spices to it?
Nope. I've also never seen tea brewed in a pot before either. I think it will go well with milk. I'll bring some the next chance I get.
Rose couldn't imagine what tea with milk and without spices would taste like. Harid expanded Rose's small world in many ways, but he never devalued or denied her customs. She could tell he was brought up well. Being privileged gives one room to be open-minded. Emmy, have you ever watched Snow White with the red hair? I have not, but I heard it's really good. I know Maylene really likes that anime. I might check it out after I finish watching Yona of the Dawn. Rose sank her teeth into the jam-covered bread. It was as fluffy as she'd hoped, and even the scent reaching her nose was scrumptious. The refreshing sweetness of apples packed every bite with a pulpy crunch.
If you enjoy food so much, why do you stick to a diet of lettuce? Wouldn't you rather have a proper meal?
Harid asked, exasperated. Rose couldn't answer because her mouth was full of bread. Come on.
What do you usually make? You don't spend all your time brewing questionable potions, right?
Oh, did I skip a line by accident? Is it because most of your garden is taken up by medicinal plants? Cheek stuffed like a chipmunk, Rose bobbed her head. Okay. This time he gave her a moment to chew and swallow. So says the man who came here seeking one of those questionable potions. Rose tamped down her desire to sulk. I also use my herbs to make medicines you would be familiar with. Some of my most common concoctions are potions for bruises, potion for when a foreign object enters the eye, potion for dry, tingling skin, potion for after face powder removal, leave-in potion for the hair, potion for rejuvenation, potion for keeping insects away, and so on. There was also the oils that will make you popular with the ladies if you use it to wash under your arms, but she didn't tell Harid. She might cry if he asked for that one.
You make some surprisingly normal things. Some of those are even used by the knights.
I suppose so. Rose merely made what was ordered. She left wholesale distribution to Tien, which was why she had no control over what went where. Maybe, just maybe, some of her potions were used to heal Harid's wounds. She would be delighted if they did. Oh, okay, here we go.
So why in the world is lettuce planted in a garden with nothing but herbs? Can lettuce be used for potion making too?
I can use it in medicines to bring down fevers, but it's rarely incorporated into a witch's secret potions. I'm growing lettuce because my grandmother instructed me to. Rare herbs you can't get anywhere else grow in my garden as well, so my grandmother often told me to preserve the field no matter what happens. Rose also explained that her grandmother had been her teacher as well.
Oh, I see.
Harid muttered thoughtfully, placing the teacup on the table.
She must have been worried about how you would fare after she passed on, Lady Witch.
I beg your pardon? She asked, looking for clarification. Her grandmother used to carp on her incessantly about the proper way to grow herbs, but Rose didn't see how that implied worry on the older witch's part.
You don't have any other family, right?
I don't. My mother seems to have died when I was young, and that's all I know about her, really. I have no idea whether I have a father or siblings.
You might not know about siblings, but you have to have had a father.
Rose understood how humans came into this world, but it had never really been a topic of conversation. She knew so little about her biological father that if someone told her that she had been conceived after her mother spent some time inside a tree hollow, she might just believe it because then she would know something.
And that is all the more reason for your grandmother to worry about leaving you alone. And she was right to be. Because as much as you thoroughly enjoy food, you don't give it the time of day.
Does it really look that bad to you? I have been eating a proper 3 meals a day of lettuce.
I don't think you can call eating lettuce a proper meal, but even that lettuce diet is within your grandmother's plans for you.
How?
Your grandmother had a good grasp on your personality, Lady Witch. By telling you it's for potion making, you tended to the lettuce, even if you didn't want to, right? It would be a waste not to eat what you grew when it's not used in potions.
Harich said, "This is fatherless behavior." Thank you for the bits, by the way. Rose had never thought of it that way. There was a time, right after her grandmother passed away, that Rose stood at the stove, but she didn't think the food she cooked was particularly tasty and ended up developing a habit of skipping meals. She found hunger to be so tedious, she even created a potion for removing hunger. Then she had to take care of the field, which meant watering it early in the morning and staying exposed to the sun for hours while pulling weeds. Rose couldn't enjoy a lazy schedule of sleeping when the sun rose and waking when it set because the lettuce and herbs would wither. Some plants were more delicate than others and had to be given extra care or they would die overnight. Hello, Nezuko Kamado. Welcome. Rose had zero confidence she would have listened if her grandmother had only instructed her to wake up at a decent time and eat a proper meal. She was embarrassed, for once, and filled with a heartwarming joy that Harid realized how much her grandmother worried about her without ever meeting the older woman, when Rose herself had never realized it. Her grandmother cared about her so deeply, she had planned ahead for the time she would be gone. Learning about the depth of her grandmother's love brought Rose incredible happiness. And she deducted that Harid realized her grandmother's unique way of showing love because he was a similar type. I really am in love.
I knew you would love it. Eat more.
Harid happily held out a slice of bread. Did he think she was talking about the food? Rose accepted the slice coated in a thick layer of apple jam.
Delicious, isn't it?
Boundless kindness glimmered in Harid's eyes. Maybe he was worried about making Rose emotional after talking about her grandmother.
Want another slice?
After I eat this one,
Okay.
he said, smearing jam onto another piece of bread. Rose munched on it. Ah, cute! Cute picture! Wait, what's this? Just a spoonful of jam and then another. Your song. Wait, hold on. Did you record this?
So then your grandma...
Oh, well, never mind. You didn't record that. Okay, just a spoonful of jam and then another. Your song is pretty catchy. Just enough for a what to sleep? As he spread the jam, Harish sang the same song Rose had while making tea. For a whale to sleep. That said, I don't know how long whales sleep for. But by the time I finish singing, I've brewed a tea that tastes just like how my grandmother used to make it. The song was a guide on how to brew tea, including what ingredients and how much of each to put in, how much to grind, and how long to boil. Rose loved listening to the song with the sound of boiling water.
So then your grandmother taught you this song?
No way, she was not the singing type. After she said that, it dawned upon her. If not her grandmother, then who would have taught her this song? Who had sung it over and over again to the point Rose remembered it word for word?
So you do remember something about your mother?
Her non-existent father and siblings were out of the question, so if it wasn't her grandmother, that only left her mother. Rose scowled hard to hide the tears emerging in her eyes. Hiding her expression was a complete failure this time. Harij laughed when he saw her scrunched up face.
Do you always dodge questions you don't like with a scowl?
All this time, Rose had always concealed everything. Her expressions, emotions, and the truth behind a stern face. Pushing people away kept her safe. She had it burned into her psyche that only unthinkable horrors awaited should the magicless discover that witches lived and breathed by the truth. But he just reminded her that she could no longer fully deceive him. And that it was because he had this special knowledge of her circumstances that he was trying to become someone she would talk to. In which case, she didn't have to bottle it up anymore. She couldn't. Her lips trembled and she sniffled. She ripped a chunk off the bread with her teeth and munched on it. In this moment, Rose tasted immeasurable joy. And that is the end of chapter 2. That is all I had permission to read up to. Wow, that took a while. That was like 2.5 hours of reading. That was so long. I know, my mouth hurts. I really was. Why is he falling for her? I really was not expecting her to be such a hot mess. But you know, maybe this is for our not as well adjusted girlies. You know, it's for them to project themselves onto. Rose is a solid 4. Oh, I enjoyed your YouTube videos. Thank you, Spider Boy. Anyways, let me switch out. To be honest, I am very hungry because those like chapter-long descriptions of food killed me. I'm so hungry. So I think I'm gonna go eat lunch. I'm gonna eat a salad. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you are interested in reading more, again, you can go to BookWalker, and they're doing like a special promotion of specifically romance light novels. So, yeah, if you use my code Emirichu, you can get 30% off or 30% coin back on romance titles. Anyways, let me go back to the cafe. Oh my god. Oh, my foot fell asleep. I was sitting for so long. Ow! Ow! Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Big thank you to Alejandro Saab, also known as CyYu VTuber. Thank you. I'd like to give him a big thanks for recording the lines. He did an amazing job. I really think it added to the atmosphere. And yeah, he did an incredible job. He's a pro. Okay, so I'm going to I think I'm gonna see who's streaming right now. Is anyone streaming right now? I don't know what time it is for everyone, but I think I will give someone a raid. You know what? Let's raid Girl DM. She is playing Digimon Survive. Okay, we're gonna raid. Say hi. I think this is my first time raiding her. But yeah, be nice and say hi. Okay, Girl DM. Okay, I'm gonna go eat. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the subs. And yeah, thanks. I had a really fun time, but now my mouth hurts, so I probably won't talk for the rest of the day.